I used to believe that real love required complete trust. No questions, no safety nets, just pure faith in the person standing beside you. When my fiancée looked me in the eyes and said she would not sign a prenup because I should trust her, part of me wanted to believe that was romantic. But somewhere deep in my gut, alarm bells started ringing. I told her I did trust her, and I meant it in a way. But trust and protection are two different things. And what happened next proved I was right to know the difference. Before I tell you how this all unfolded, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. If you have ever had doubts about someone close to you, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story has twists you will not see coming. Let me take you back to where it all started, to the moment I thought I had found the one. My name is Gunnar. I am 32 years old, and I work as a software engineer at a major tech company in Seattle. I did not come from money. I built what I have from the ground up, working my tail off for more than 10 years. By the time this story begins, I had accumulated assets that most people my age would consider impressive. I owned a condo in a decent neighborhood worth about $450,000, and I had paid it off completely. No mortgage hanging over my head. I had an investment portfolio valued at around $300,000 plus substantial savings and a healthy 401k account. On paper, I looked like I had it made, but none of this came easy. My mother, Dorothy, raised me alone after my father passed away when I was 12 years old. Dad had worked in construction his whole life and died in an accident on site. The only thing he left behind was a life insurance policy that kept us afloat during those brutal years. Mom worked 2 jobs to make sure I could go to college. She taught me the value of hard work and the importance of being smart with money. She always said that financial security was not about being greedy. It was about honoring the sacrifices made to get you there. I lived simply. I drove a reliable car that was 7 years old. I did not wear expensive clothes or flash my wealth around. Most people who met me casually had no idea I was doing well financially. I preferred it that way. I had seen too many people get taken advantage of because they advertised their success. 2 years before all of this happened, I met Amber at a charity event downtown. She was 29, worked as a marketing coordinator for a small firm, and made a modest income. When we started talking that night, I was struck by how down-to-earth she seemed. She wore a simple dress, laughed easily, and told me she valued experiences over material things. She talked about wanting a warm family someday, about cooking Sunday dinners, and taking road trips to national parks. She did not ask what I did for work until our 3rd date, and even then she seemed more interested in whether I liked my job than how much I made. Our relationship developed naturally. We went on dates that did not cost much. Walks around Green Lake, home-cooked dinners at my place, movie nights on the couch. Amber seemed to genuinely enjoy spending time with me, not spending my money. After about 18 months together, I was convinced she was the one. I proposed at the same charity event where we had first met. She cried happy tears and said yes without hesitation. We started planning our wedding immediately. Everything felt perfect, until I brought up the prenup. It was a Friday evening, maybe 3 weeks after our engagement. We were sitting in my living room talking about wedding logistics when I shifted the conversation. I tried to approach it gently. I explained that a prenuptial agreement was not about distrusting her. It was about protecting what we both brought into the marriage. I emphasized that it was standard practice, something that protected both parties. I even mentioned that she could have her own attorney review it to make sure it was fair. Her reaction was immediate and sharp. Her face changed like I had slapped her. Her voice went cold. A prenup? Seriously? She stood up from the couch, arms crossed, looking at me like I had just revealed myself to be a stranger. "If you loved me, you would not ask for this," she said. Her tone was accusatory, wounded. I tried to explain further. "I do trust you, but this is just a smart financial decision. Lots of couples do this. It does not mean anything about our relationship." She was not having it. She got more emotional, her voice rising. "I am not signing a prenup. You should trust me." The way she said it felt like an ultimatum, like I was the one being unreasonable. She stood there for another moment, waiting for me to back down. When I did not, She turned and walked to the bedroom, shutting the door behind her. We did not speak for the rest of the night. I sat alone on that couch, staring at the wall, feeling confused. Her reaction seemed too intense, too defensive. If someone really had nothing to hide, would not they at least be willing to discuss it calmly? A small voice in my head whispered that something was off, but I pushed it away. Maybe I approached it wrong. Maybe she just felt hurt. I told myself I would give it time. The next few days were tense. Amber avoided the topic of the prenup entirely. Whenever I tried to bring it up, she either changed the subject or got visibly upset. She started making comments that felt like guilt trips. "I guess your money matters more than our love. I cannot believe you think I am some gold digger." She turned it around on me, making me feel like the bad guy for trying to protect myself. But then I started noticing other things. Little things that had not registered before. Amber began talking more frequently about the kind of honeymoon she wanted. Not just a nice trip, but something extravagant. She mentioned upgrading her engagement ring because the one I gave her was too simple. She started talking about our dream house, something much bigger and more expensive than my condo. She would say things like, "When we sell your place and buy our real home," as if it was already decided. The woman I had fallen in love with never cared about these things. But now it felt like every conversation circled back to money, luxury, or material upgrades. And every time I tried to bring up the prenup again, she shut me down with tears or anger. One evening I sat alone in my condo after she had left for the night. I stared out the window at the Seattle skyline and let myself think the thoughts I had been avoiding. Something did not feel right. The woman I fell in love with never cared about these things. That is when I decided to pay closer attention. Over the next week, I watched Amber more carefully. I did not accuse her of anything. I just observed, and what I saw made my stomach turn. Her spending habits had changed dramatically. She was shopping more than she used to. Designer bags started appearing, expensive shoes. When I asked about it, she waved it off casually. "We are getting married anyway. What is mine is yours, right?" She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. But we were not married yet, and these purchases were not being made with her money. She also stopped offering to split bills. In the beginning of our relationship, Amber always insisted on paying her share. But now she just expected me to cover everything. Dinners, groceries, even her car payment once when she said she was a little short. The language she used started to shift too. She talked about our future like my assets were already hers. "When we sell your condo and buy our dream house, we should invest in this or that." But it was always my money she was planning to invest. The prenup topic had gone silent, but not because she had accepted it. She just stopped acknowledging it, as if the issue had been resolved in her favor, simply because I had not pushed back hard enough. When it came to wedding planning, things got worse. Amber wanted everything to be lavish. The venue she picked was far beyond the budget I had suggested. When I tried to scale things back, she got defensive. "It is our special day. We cannot be cheap about this, Gunnar." But I was not being cheap. I was being reasonable. She was not. I felt my chest tighten with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. I wanted to be wrong about her. I wanted to believe I was overthinking things, but the evidence kept piling up. One Sunday afternoon, I drove to my mother's house. Dorothy still lived in the same modest home where I grew up, a small 3-bedroom place in the suburbs. When I walked in, she was baking an apple pie flour, dusting her hands. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. We sat at the kitchen table and I told her everything. The prenup refusal, Amber's changing behavior, the spending, the entitlement. My mother listened quietly, the way she always did, letting me get it all out before she spoke. When I finished, she wiped her hands on a towel and looked me straight in the eyes. "Gunnar, I raised you to be smart with money for a reason." She paused, then continued. "Your father made sure we were protected when he died. That life insurance policy saved us. That is what love does. It protects." She told me to trust my gut. If something feels off, it probably is. She suggested I do more research before committing to anything permanent. "A prenup is smart," she said. "If she really loves you, she will understand that." I left my mother's house that day with a clearer mind and a stronger resolve. I needed to know the truth about Amber one way or another. I started digging. I went back through Amber's social media, scrolling further than I had before. Most of her recent posts were about us, about love and gratitude. But when I went back 2 or 3 years before we met, the tone was completely different. There were posts about luxury brands, pictures of fancy restaurants, and expensive vacations, comments to her friends that made my blood run cold. I need to find a rich guy. One post even joked about marrying for money. I found photos of her with ex-boyfriends, guys in tailored suits standing in front of luxury cars. I had never heard her mention any of these people. It was like she had scrubbed that version of herself from her current narrative. She had deleted or hidden a lot of content after we started dating. Why would someone do that, unless they were trying to hide who they really were? Then, by chance, I got more information from an unexpected source. I was at the gym one afternoon when Marcus, a mutual friend, struck up a conversation. He mentioned Amber's ex-boyfriend casually, like it was common knowledge. "Hey, did not Amber used to date that real estate mogul?" "What was his name?" I froze mid-rep. I had no idea what he was talking about. Marcus saw my face and his expression shifted. "Oh man, I thought you knew." He trailed off, clearly uncomfortable. I pressed him for details. He told me that Amber had dated a wealthy real estate investor for about 2 years. The breakup had been messy, but Marcus did not know all the details. I could not let it go. I called Tyler, a friend of mine who worked in finance. Tyler knew people in those circles. When I mentioned Amber's ex by name, Tyler let out a low whistle. "Dude, that guy is loaded. She was with him for 2 years. They broke up because he found out she was trying to get access to his accounts." Tyler paused. "Be careful, man. I mean it." My hands were shaking when I hung up the phone. Everything clicked into place. Amber had a pattern. She targeted men with money. She played the role of the humble, loving girlfriend until she had them hooked. And then she positioned herself to take as much as she could. I felt sick. I had been such a fool. That night I decided to test her one more time. I needed to be absolutely sure before I made my next move. Amber came over for dinner. I made pasta, poured wine, and kept things light. Then casually, I brought up finances. "Honey, I have been thinking. Maybe we should talk about how we will manage money after we get married. What are your thoughts?" Her eyes lit up immediately. "Oh, I think we should combine everything. Joint accounts, joint assets. After all, marriage is about sharing everything, right?" She smiled like this was the most obvious answer in the world. Then she went further. "You should add my name to your condo deed before the wedding. Just to show you, trust me." I smiled back at her, but inside I felt ice cold. "Let me think about it," I said. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The woman I loved never existed. This whole time, it was about my money. But I was not going to be another one of her victims. The next morning I made a call to my attorney. On Monday morning I sat across from James Whitmore in his downtown Seattle office. James was in his 50s, a seasoned attorney with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. I had worked with him on some contract reviews for work, and I trusted him. I laid out the entire situation. The prenup refusal, Amber's behavior, her past, everything. James listened carefully, taking notes. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "You are smart to come here now," he said. He explained that Washington is a community property state. Anything acquired during marriage gets split 50-50 in a divorce regardless of who earned it. Even if I kept my premarital assets separate, Amber could still make claims. Proving separate property in court could get messy and expensive. "But I acquired most of these assets before I even met her," I said. "True," James replied. "But once you are married, things get complicated, especially if any of those assets appreciate in value or get commingled with marital funds. You would be fighting an uphill battle." I felt the weight of it settling on me. "So what do I do?" James leaned forward. "There is a legal way to protect your premarital assets. You can transfer them to a trust or to a family member temporarily. If the assets are not in your name when you marry, they cannot be claimed as marital property. Then after the marriage, if it even happens, you can transfer them back. I thought about it for only a moment. My mother. I will transfer everything to my mother's name. James nodded approvingly. Smart choice. Your mother can hold the assets in trust for you. We will document everything properly. It will be completely legal and reversible. We began the paperwork that same day. Over the next 2 weeks, I quietly executed the plan. The condo deed was transferred to Dorothy's name. My investment accounts were moved into a trust with my mother as the trustee. Savings were redistributed. Everything was documented, legal, and airtight. I worked with James to make sure every detail was correct. During this time, I kept up appearances with Amber. I acted normal. I stopped bringing up the prenup entirely, letting her believe she had won that argument. She grew more comfortable, more confident. She planned the wedding with increasing extravagance, assuming I would pay for all of it. She even started talking about upgrading my car after we got married. You deserve something nicer, she said. We can afford it. I just smiled and nodded. She told her friends that I had finally dropped the prenup thing. She shopped more freely, charging purchases to her credit card and hinting that I should help her pay it off. She made plans for our future home, talking about renovations and furniture like it was already ours. All the while I was waiting. Waiting for the transfers to finalize. Waiting for the right moment. 3 weeks after everything was legally completed, I set the plan in motion. It was a Thursday evening. Amber was at my condo, flipping through wedding magazines on the couch. The doorbell rang. A courier stood outside holding a large envelope. It was addressed to Amber, sent from James Whitmore's law firm. She looked at me confused. What is this? I do not know, I said calmly. You should open it. She tore open the envelope and pulled out a formal letter. I watched her face as she began to read. The letter was detailed and professional. It began with a formal greeting. Dear Miss Amber, this letter is to inform you of certain legal matters regarding your fiancé, Mr. Gunner. It went on to explain that as of a specific date, all premarital assets previously owned by me had been legally transferred. The condo, the investment accounts, the savings. The letter listed everything. These assets are now held in trust by Mrs. Dorothy. It read, this transfer was executed to protect premarital assets from potential claims. Then came the paragraph I had worked with James to craft carefully. Mr. Gunner has instructed me to convey the following message. You said I should trust you, and I do. I trust that you love me for who I am, not what I have. Since you refused to sign a prenuptial agreement, I have taken alternative legal measures. If you truly love me, as you claim, these transfers should not matter to you. However, if your intentions were financial in nature, please consider this relationship terminated. The letter concluded by noting that all wedding expenses I had already incurred were considered gifts. Any legal questions should be directed to the law firm. It was signed by James Whitmore, Esquire. Amber's face drained of color. Her hands trembled as she read the letter again. Then a third time, she looked up at me speechless. I stood in the kitchen doorway watching her. The silence stretched out for what felt like forever. Then the mask fell off. What the hell is this, Gunner? Her voice was sharp, angry. No more pretending to be hurt or confused. Just raw fury. You transferred everything to your mother. How could you do this to me? Notice what she did not ask. She did not ask why. She did not ask if we could talk about it. She asked how I could do this to her, like I had taken something that was already hers. I stayed calm. You said I should trust you. I do trust you. If you love me, my financial situation should not matter. Right. We can still get married. I just do not have anything to my name now. Is that a problem? Her face twisted. You know that is not fair. She started screaming. I gave you 2 years of my life. I could have been with someone who appreciates me. Do you know how much time I wasted? And there it was. The truth laid bare. She had just admitted what this had always been about. Time wasted. Someone who appreciates me, meaning someone whose money she could access. She realized too late what she had revealed. She tried to backtrack, but the damage was done. I spoke quietly, my voice steady. "I think you should leave." Amber grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. She slammed it so hard the walls shook. Then she was gone. I stood alone in my silent apartment, letting out a long, slow breath. It hurt. It hurt more than I expected. But underneath the pain was something else. Relief. Freedom. I had protected myself. I had trusted my instincts. And I had won. The next day I began the process of canceling the wedding. I called venues and caterers, explained the situation as briefly as possible, and handled the logistics. Some deposits were lost, but it was a small price to pay. When I told friends and family what had happened, I was surprised by how many of them said they had suspected something was off. I just did not want to say anything more than one person told me. I wish I had listened to those quiet doubts earlier. My mother came over that weekend with comfort food and her steady presence. She did not say "I told you so." She just hugged me and said she was proud of me for protecting myself. "Better to find out now than after the wedding," she said. "Your father would be proud of you too." A few weeks later, James transferred all the assets back into my name. Everything was intact. Nothing had been lost except time and emotional energy. I felt a wave of relief wash over me as I signed the final documents. About 3 months later, Marcus reached out to me. "Dude, you dodged a bullet," he said. Apparently, Amber was already engaged to someone else. A divorced doctor with money. She had moved on fast. She was telling people that I was not ready for commitment, spinning the narrative to make herself look like the victim. I felt a brief sting when I heard that. But then I realized it was just confirmation. This was her pattern. She moved from one target to the next. She was someone else's problem now. I thought briefly about warning the doctor, but I decided against it. He would figure it out on his own. I needed to focus on my own healing, not on her next victim. The months that followed were hard. There were lonely nights when I questioned everything. Was any of it real? Did she ever love me at all? I grieved not for the person Amber actually was, but for the person I thought she was. That version of her never existed. I was mourning a ghost, but slowly, I started to recover. I threw myself into my work. I took on bigger projects and earned a promotion. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during the relationship. I joined a hiking group and spent weekends exploring trails around Washington. I went to therapy for a few sessions, which helped me process everything. I learned to separate love from naivety. I learned that protecting yourself is not the same as being cynical. 6 months after everything ended, I felt like myself again. I was not in a rush to date. I was content being single. I focused on personal growth, on my career, on my relationship with my mother. I became stronger, both financially and emotionally. One afternoon, almost a year after the breakup, I sat in my favorite coffee shop with a view of the water. I thought about everything that had happened. I thought about Amber, about my father, about my mother's wisdom. I realized something important. Trust and protection are not opposites. They coexist. Loving someone does not mean being naive. Real love welcomes protection. Fake love resents it. My mother had been right all along. Love protects. I did not hate Amber. I was not even angry anymore. I was just grateful. Grateful I had found out before it was too late. Grateful for the lesson, as painful as it was. She had taught me something valuable about discernment, about listening to my instincts, about the difference between romance and reality. I was not cynical about love. I still believed in it. I still wanted it someday, but I was wiser now. I had stronger boundaries. I would not compromise my financial wisdom for the sake of romance ever again. And when I did fall in love again, it would be with someone who understood that protection and love go hand in hand. Sometimes the greatest act of self-love is protecting yourself from those who claim to love you. I learned that trust should be earned, not demanded. My father protected us even after he was gone. My mother taught me to do the same. And when the time comes, I will teach my own children too, because real love, understands protection. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had to choose between trusting someone and protecting yourself? How did you handle it? Drop your answer in the comments. I would love to hear your story. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories that make you think. And share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who is struggling with similar doubts. Sometimes we all need a reminder that protecting ourselves is not selfish. It is necessary. Thank you for watching. I hope you walk away from this story a little wiser and a little more at peace. Take care of yourselves out there, and remember, love protects.